Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Welcome to Reganelite's Viewpoint, episode 140 here. Apologies for the slight delay. We've got 6 stories to cover here, guys, and I want to try and finish at half 9, if we can. Obviously, the start did not help. I was literally 1 minute away from pressing the live button, and then the camera went. And that's because I have the wire. I had the wire put it around the back instead around the front instead of around the back, which was a big mistake because I needed to have the headphones in for later. And I touched the wire, and it froze. So I plugged the camera at the back again, and cross fingers, it doesn't. Nothing goes wrong with it. But it is what it is, guys. For those who are new to this live stream, we cover mainly UK politics. For this one specifically here, Joe, I know you told me to give a link here to the other one, but I literally had to create an entirely new live stream in order for me to do this, so I just didn't have the time to do it, so I do apologize. If you still have the link for the other live stream, then send them over here, but yeah, I will be deleting that. In fact, I might just do it now while I'm on. I might just do it now just in case people are hanging about on there. I'm going to do it now, actually. Just give me 1 moment, because if I don't, it's going to be bothering me. Which is very, very annoying. So just 1 second. Yep, so that's fine. Where is that? Where is that one? Yeah, there it is. Get rid of that old. Yep, delete that. Thank you. They've partially blocked my 3-year anniversary show because of so much copyright on it. They've partially blocked it. It's been blocked in some countries and religions. Yeah. Damn it. Dear, oh dear. What can you do? Anyway, Joe, good to see you there. Mel and anybody else lurking in the chats. Right. Let's not fuss about anymore, guys. Cross fingers. Nothing happens with the camera between now and the end of this show. Just quickly before we go, get going as well, good news. I have recorded a Rumble and Patreon video for you guys. I still haven't recorded the rest of the week because I've had so much wrestling content to cover over the weekend, and I was kind of like, I had my list of stuff to do, and I decided, you know what, let me clear the wrestling content. And I managed to squeeze in one Patreon and one Rumble video for the platforms. So there is a new Patreon and Rumble video, both on the platforms, respectfully, if you guys want to check them out. I literally did them only literally a few hours ago, and I've just literally put them straight up there as well. So yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that there as well. No, that's fine, Joe. No, you don't need to apologise for missing it. No. Look, it's fine. You don't need to apologise for missing it. There was plenty of wonderful people there. So, you know, there was moderators there. So you're fine. You're fine, honestly. Right, let's get started, guys. I'm blathering way too long and we're already late. So here's the first story, guys, from The Guardian. So Britons should strive to pay a minimum tax legally possible, said Richard Tice. The Reform UK's Deputy Leader comments came as he was responding to questions raised about his own tax affairs. This is so insulting because at a time when so many wealthy people and big businesses are avoiding tax, because there are big companies. Now, I just want to stress that there are businesses who pay their fair share of tax. There are who follow the rules and whatnot. But there's lots of people like this man and people of similar stature who own certain companies and organisations and resident properties and whatnot, who go out of their way, and I mean literally go out of their way, to avoid paying tax. And that tax can make a massive difference between, you know, fixing, helping with our cost of living crisis, helping with our healthcare crime and whatnot. Money that belongs to the estate, belongs to the Treasury. You know, HMRC really does need to do more when it comes to people with more money. They keep going after, especially you know, I'm so sick of hearing stories about people, they're chasing people on disability benefits or people on entitlements. There is so much more money, so much more tax they can get if they actually spend some time going after the rich and the wealthy in society. Like this idea that, the UK will crumble if we start chasing these people, which is just nonsense. They're not going to leave. It really, really is. We need to get after these people. And Richard Tice, this is the same Richard Tice, by the way, who is under questions over his tax gagging. This is the same guy that was calling for certain Labour MP to resign over the exact same thing. I think it was Angela Rayner. But when it's him, oh no, guys, it's a completely different story. Like it's just one rule for him and his buddies, and another rule for everyone else. It's so insulting. How long has taxes are fair, and their usage is visible in our quality of life? I think we should all pay taxes. I defeat the tax dodgers. Yeah. Look, everyone's just got to pay their fair share of tax. That's just it. You know, I don't like sorting out, I hate going through the process of sorting out my taxes, you know, considering I don't make a lot of money, but I still have to pay a fair share of tax, you know, from what I make here and what I make on all this. And that's why I have everything written down, you know, so that I can navigate it as best as I possibly can. You know, it's an absolute pain in the arse, but HMRC require it, you know. Sarah Davis, Mel, Jowl, Billy Kershaw, Martin Brisk, person impersonator. I think that's everyone in the chat, and Witchigoff, is she still lurking there as well? So all Britons should do their best to pay the minimum tax possible. Reformed Russian deputy leader has argued as he dismissed a newspaper investigation over his own tax affairs as a smear. Of course he would say that. Richard Tice, who was presenting a press conference on Monday about Reform's claims to have saved large sums of money in the English councils it runs, which is is this the same English councils that are raising council tax when they said they weren't going to raise council tax, and then they actually lied to you about raising council tax, despite they had leaflets saying that they were going to be reducing your taxes, but instead are raising council tax there. Did I confuse you with all those words about taxes? Yes, I did. Faced questions about a Sunday Times story which detailed a scheme that the paper had said had helped him avoid nearly £600,000 of corporation tax. Think of where that money could go, guys. Think of that, £600,000 could go. According to the paper, Tice's property company uses a rare legal status known as Real Estate Investment Trust, or REIT, which is meant it paid no corporation tax between 2018 and 2021, and Labour has urged HMRC to investigate the arrangements. Asked whether it was right to minimise his tax payments in such a way, Tice told reporters he rejected the idea that people should pay the absolute maximum tax possible. This is bollocks, because this here reject the idea that people should pay the absolute tax possible. Because if you're somebody who is middle or lower income and you don't pay your maximum share of tax, the tax man will come after you. I've seen the videos of the tax man coming after you. Yeah, if you're a middle or lower income, they will come after you if you do not pay your fair share of tax. They will. So to imply that, you don't need to pay it is bollocks, because HMRC will come after you. You should pay the absolute maximum tax possible. You should do. Everyone should. Because everyone has to contribute. Like, without taxes, we can't function as a society in the UK. We need taxes. Taxes are a good thing. There are some pointless taxes. There are some good taxes. All taxes are different. But taxes are a necessity. We need to have them because we have to all contribute, to society. If we have no taxes, then then how are we supposed to run the roads, clean the bins, run our healthcare service? How are we going to fund our police service? How are we going to fund the government? How are we going to fund? There's so many things. We have to have taxes. It's just. Like, I hate this idea of we should always get rid of taxes. I hate this idea. I really want to stress this, guys, because I know people don't like paying taxes and people see taxes as a bad thing. Taxes are a really good thing. Taxes are a really good thing because they make everyone better. Yeah, everyone contributes to paying taxes. It benefits everyone. It really, really does. Tax them like we get taxed. Exactly, Dan. Exactly, Dan Allen there. Exactly. Asked if he would encourage everyone in the UK to pay as little tax as legally possible. Tice replies, "Yes, of course. That's what you should do." Which is not, that sends the wrong message. You're telling the British public you shouldn't be paying your taxes. You should be dodging your taxes. Tice also used a tweet by the Sunday Times Telegraph journalist Gabrielle Polling about the story, which confirmed that Tice had paid the necessary tax under the terms of the scheme. To claim the story about him that he had been misleading. I haven't read the article, so I can't say enough on it. But if there are legal loopholes that he doesn't need to pay the tax, then that's then these loopholes need to be closed as soon as possible. There. Good afternoon, Kevin, from beautiful Florida. Hope you are doing well there. Given that it was his conclusion by the end of the afternoon, maybe he was trying to smear me. Tice said. In fact, Paul Young's tweet has restated what the story set out, that while Tice did not appear to have broken any laws or criminally underpaid tax, the use of a RET scheme for his property company was a complex and unusual way to minimise the amount owed. Tice sought to characterise the story as an attempt by the media to argue that everyone had to pay the maximum tax possible, and this is where I say, yes, you should pay the maximum tax possible. We have entered a new world where there is a more imperative now in the United Kingdom that you should just pay taxes as required, he said, arguing that this is the new moral code which would lead people leaving the UK in large numbers. This is bollocks, again. This is absolute nonsense. You must pay the maximum personal income tax rate on everything. That is a mad situation to be living. We all have to call out, he said. And again, you know, he's got lots and lots of money. For people who don't have lots and lots of money, you have to rely on public services. If you ain't got taxes to pay those public services, how do you fund those public services? It's really not that hard to understand. How many friends and family do you have who voluntarily choose to pay more tax than they are legally obliged to do so, or who voluntarily decide? Actually, I'm going to pay the maximum. Actually, I'm going to pay the maximum I can. Look. Unfortunately, like I don't think he's going to pay. I don't think he's going to get away with anything because he used a loophole, and whether or not it can. Whether he can be forced to pay it or not is obviously one thing, but for ordinary people, they can't get away with it. This is the thing people need to understand, is that my concern is with this language and this rhetoric from Richard Tice is that people will see this as a means as that, oh, so I can get away with paying tax. And what this will happen is that it will lead to some people trying to dodge taxes even more, which will mean that they could find themselves in big trouble with HMRC. That could be the big consequences here. Christina, good morning. Good morning. Good evening to you. Ellie, good evening to you as well. I hope I've not missed anyone there in the chat. So Tice also denied that RET schemes, of which there are about 200 operating in the UK, were specialist or beyond the use of less rich taxpayers, saying anyone could invest in them. In a letter to HMRC released on Sunday night, the Labour chair, Anna Turley, called for an investigation into a series of areas where she said it was possible that Tice and his company had abused the intention of the RET process, calling it a deeply troubling case in which needs to be investigated with the utmost urgency. Yes, it does need to be investigated. And look, he dodged taxes, but the problem is that he used a potentially legal loophole to get away with it. That's the thing in this. So whether or not he would still have to pay those taxes, I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably going to end up getting away with it, chat, because the thing is that if it's a legal loophole, he's going to get away with it. Much to my annoyance, but I do think he's going to get away with it. I'm the only green, says Mel. No, there's plenty of other. There's plenty of other people. So you're not on your own. Don't worry. Dozens of rich Brits used to invest in the houses in the Algarve. They would tell the UK tax revenue that they pay their taxes in Portugal, and in Portugal they pay their taxes in the UK, forging documents. And they did the same in Spain. Yeah, and this is the thing is right. When they say that to each other, there should I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jal, but I'm assuming that in that situation, if you tell them, oh, I'm paying my taxes there, wouldn't they call them up and check that person's details to make sure that they are paying their taxes? I don't know if Portugal does that to check someone in Britain, someone who's living in Portugal that's from the UK paying their taxes and vice versa. But just as a reference there. Then came Brexit, and a lot of the rich and Brits got nasty surprises in the mail. From our tax service, most had to sell their estates. Ah, I see. Sarah Davis says, anyone in court for tax issues should use Richard Tice as a defence. If it's good enough for Tice, then it's good enough for everyone. when enough people do watch do this, HMRC do something. Yeah, use the Richard Tice defense. Richard Tice said I could pay the bare minimum tax, and the judge will say, well, you're stupid. You shouldn't be you're believing a politician. Don't trust everything a politician tells you. There. Good evening, Dave McGuinness. Hope you are doing well there. Hope you had a good show with David Mulligan earlier this afternoon. Apologies for not attending, my friend. I've been so busy, and I was lurking in the morning chat, just for reference. Hopefully, by the way, I'll mention it at the end of this show, guys, as well. There's going to be, I've been told tomorrow there might be some internet issues in this area, in my area. So I don't know whether the live stream is going to be able to go all right or not. If the internet cuts out, the internet cuts out. I'm just not going to be able to live stream tomorrow. But I'm still planning it and like normal, but we'll see how it goes. Obviously, if the internet goes, I'm not going to be able to do much work tomorrow. But I just want to let you guys heads up and ahead of that. Also, as well, if you guys have got nothing else going on after this live stream, we'll be doing. I'll be on Discord for an after chat for a bit as well. So if you guys want to join me on there, talk about anything, you can join me for that. I'll let you go. Like I said, I'm going to be going to Scotland in May. Going to a couple of places. I'll let you, if anyone's interested, might talk about that in the after chat if anyone's interested there as well. Back to news and politics here. Keir Starmer denies misleading the Commons over Peter Mandelson's vetting process. The Prime Minister told MPs last year that the full due process was followed, but questions now arise after the Mandelson files were published. So essentially, like, just to put it in a nutshell, the Prime Minister lied. We know based off the documents and based on what messages that we have seen, not everything has been published. So there is more that needs to be shared here. But the matter of fact is that Peter Mandelson skipped a lot of vetting process to get this position. He jumped a lot of hoops that he should not have been allowed to jump hoops. That's just generally a fact. I don't think anyone's going to debate that. I don't think anyone should argue that there. And should the Prime Minister resign over that? Yeah, he should resign. He should resign over this. However, the only reason why I don't think he should right now, which he should do, is because of the situation in the Middle East. And I would rather Keir Starmer be the Prime Minister right now with what's going on in the Middle East, in particular with Iran. Because right now, I think in terms of his foreign policy in the Iran war, not what's happening in Gaza, because he's still doing fuck all about that, but the Iran war, I think he's handling it pretty well. Because obviously, if it was Kemi Badenoch, if it was Nigel Farage, we'd be in a lot of worse of a hellhole. If they were Prime Minister right now. So in that sense, I think we're a lot better. But I do think he's probably going to go after the by-elections. But we'll see closer to that time. So Keir Starmer's denied misleading the House of Commons over Peter Mandelson's vetting process to become the US ambassador. The Prime Minister told MPs in September last year, twice in one day, that the full due process was followed. It was not followed. When it was revealed that Lord Mandelson continued his friendship with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein after he was jailed, which led to his sacking. But after the British government last Wednesday published its first tranche of the Mandelson files detailing correspondence about his appointment, and sacking questions have been raised about whether Sir Keir did follow the correct process in appointing Lord Mandelson as his top diplomatic job. Spoiler, he didn't. The document shows the PM and his chief of staff at the time, Morgan McSweeney, were told about Lord Mandelson's relationship with Epstein, including how he stayed at the same-sex offender's house while he was in jail, and how his appointment could be a reputational risk. So they were literally told this, and they still went ahead of it, But I think it's because of PT's connections, Mandy, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. Files also show how Jonathan Powell, the National Security Advisor, was worried about his appointment and described the process as weirdly rushed. Yeah, because it was weirdly rushed. When asked by Beth Rigby if he misled MPs about due process being followed, Sir Keir said no. And the independent advisor is looking at that very question. I think on Thursday or Friday of last week, I answered it very robustly, and that process has been followed. He again blamed the process, saying that he wasn't strong enough and that he is making changes to the vetting process as a result. I don't think it's the vetting process. I just think it's your deliberate intentional just to bypass it. Just saying. Allegedly. The PM said among those changes will be the government's not being allowed to announce who has got an ambassador job before the vetting process is finished. That makes sense. That makes sense. So Keir sought to distance himself from the fact this happened with Mandelson, saying it wasn't an individual decision in the Mandelson case. That was the process. The PM said you only need to look at that in the light of the appointment to realise that that needed to change. But on due process, the process was there was followed. The problem was the process wasn't strong enough. Again, bollocks. He knew, he was told, and he ignored it. He said again, sorry, ultimately it was my mistake and I've apologised for that, and quite rightly too. You should go as a result, really. You really should, Keir. The Conservatives have claimed that there was a cover-up in the release of the Mandelson documents, as 2 sections reversed for the PM to write comments about Lord Mandelson's appointment were blank. However, it is understood no redactions were made to the sections, and he had simply not filled them after renewing them. So Keir's spokesperson said last week, I refute the suggestion of a cover-up. The government is complied fully. I don't think there's a cover-up here, if I'm honest, with regards to this. Obviously, I think most of the documents, that there are still more documents to be seen. I don't think Labour are covering this up. Do I think Labour may be covering up other things? Yes. But a Conservative spokesperson on Monday accused Keir of never owning up to his mistakes. As they said, it's always something else, team. His fault, team is so... I'm sorry, but the Conservatives said, accused Keir of never owning up to his mistakes. The Conservatives are accusing Keir Starmer and the Labour government of not owning up to their mistakes, guys. It's almost like the Conservatives have never owned up to their mistakes of 15 years of hellfire and brimstone that we have had to go through with them when the sheer scale of austerity, with one of the most crappiest Brexit deals we ever had, appointing one of the worst, or one of the dumbest prime ministers in Boris Johnson, a mad woman that was made PM without even our approval, and a party that, a Conservative party that chose to have wine and dine and have a good time, while the rest of us couldn't see each other's loved ones and could only watch them fade away through a glass window during the pandemic. So do I take the Conservatives on their point about this? No, I do not. Told Sky News, Starmer's half-hearted apology for appointing Peter Mandelson just rings hollow, and he just can't be honest. Yep, okay, yep. The fact that we never get to the bottom of this we'll never get to the bottom of the scandal until the government releases every document related to Mandelson's appointment. Well, there's a police investigation as well, so we can't get involved. We don't want to get involved in that as well. So that's the obvious reason. Both the Lib Dems and the Conservatives call on the PM's independent ethnic advisor to investigate him over his appointment of Lord Mandelson. But Sir Lauren Magnus last week said the documents indicate the relevant process for the political appointment was followed. Ambassadors are normally diplomatic appointments, but Lord Mandelson had served in the former Labour government, was a political appointee. Yeah, conflict of interest, obviously, of course. Yeah, conflict of interest. But, you know, I'm not going to take lectures from the Conservatives on it. And we shouldn't be taking lectures from either them or the Lib Dems on it either, to be fair there. Let's have a quick look, see what you're saying. A cover-up is too harsh, Reganelite, but there is a lack of transparency. Yeah, that's the word. Thank you, Giles. Transparency is definitely the word relating to this, that is for sure. One thing I have to say, Starmer's doing a favour to the UK, staying out of the American sitcom in Iran, politically and economically. Yeah, that is a positive. However, the big criticism of Keir Starmer relating to it, and which many people rightfully point out, is that we have painted a target on our back by allowing the US to use our bases in the Middle East, which is a problem. Whether you agree or disagree with that decision, it does paint a target for us. And it's not like we can let our ships go in through the Strait of Hormuz without being targeted by Iran as well. Even though we're not directly at war with them, we are still technically, in theory, in this, we are still in, if you want to be technical, we are in this war because we are playing defensive as well out there. So I think that's also important, worth pointing out here. So it's just a story I've been waiting to, since this morning, that's been grinding my gears a lot. So let me read a bit more into this one here. It's from the BBC. The headline is Starmer has been warned over the assisting dying bill by more than 100 Labour MPs. Let me read more into it before I start my rant. Failing to pass the assisting dying legislation would undermine trust in politics. The Prime Minister has been warned by more than 100 Labour MPs. That's a lot of MPs from his own side. In a collection of letters to Sir Keir Starmer, parliamentarians have urged him to make sure that there is enough time for a decision to be reached. The current bill to legalise assisting dying in England and Wales was passed by the Commons in June last year. It has been stalled in the House of Lords for months and is now unlikely to pass. Opponents warn the bill is flawed and any attempts to push it through would be unsafe and would harm vulnerable people. Down Street has previously said it was a matter for Parliament. The proposed legislation that has not been introduced by the government must pass all parliamentary stages before the end of such session, which usually lasts between 1 or 2 years. If it runs out of time, the legislation typically fails. This is a deliberate attempt by the House of Lords to stop something that the majority of the politicians, the majority of the public want. This is deliberate and this is intentional by the Lords. I hate them. I fucking despise them for doing this because none of those fuckheads have any idea what it is like, and neither do I, when it comes to people on their deathbeds who want to end their lives. When they are terminally ill and want their lives to end, they want the choice to be able to die. And they cannot make that choice because these fucking clowns who are unelected bureaucrats think they know what's best for Britain in this situation. Now, are there problems with this assisting dying bill? Yes. Do there needs to be amendments and changes consistently over time? Yes, I absolutely agree. I was not in favour of when they made amendments originally in the House of Commons. I was against the bill because I felt that the bill was not strong enough. That's how I personally felt. But it went through in Parliament. And I looked more into it and I thought, you know what, it's better that it gets through and it gets signed to law, because once it's in law, then they can make changes now and make changes once it's in Parliament. Whatever changes is necessary, plenty of discussion and whatnot. This is obviously a very sensitive topic and many people are concerned about the ramifications of this. I want to be clear from my position about the assisting dying bill. Okay, it should only be for people who are generally dying, who are terminally ill, who cannot be saved. It should only apply to them and only them. I don't want it being branched out outside of people who are terminally ill. I can't stress that enough, because if you branch it outside of that, you're setting a very dangerous precedent. I don't want people, I don't care if people have a mental health issue, psychological issue, whatever it is. If they are not terminally ill, they are not allowed to go anywhere near this option at all. You have to prove that you are terminally ill. You have to be verified. You have to go through basically a whole bunch of hoops there in order to be able to take this. That's what it should be. Yeah. And all the people who are saying there's not enough safeguards here and there and there, these are people who don't want this, Many of them who are religious, in the belief that, no, they are meant to suffer in their last and dying days and they're terminally ill. That they should not be allowed to make that choice. It should be God's decision to decide when they get to die. That's how some of them are really thinking. And again, I know it's a sensitive subject, and I accept if some people in the chat are against, if some people in the chat feel that this bill should go down. I can understand people saying that. But I believe in choice. I believe people having that right to choose, in particular when you are on deathbeds and you do not get to, and you're in a, like, for people who sit in a vegetative state. Like, there was a story not too long ago. We saw a story about someone who was in a vegetative state for 8 years. 8 years. Like, how on earth can you, I don't know why people think, someone living in a vegetative state for 8 years, it's perfectly acceptable if they're not going to come out of it. Supporters now believe it is effectively impossible for the bill to legalise assisting dying in England and Wales to pass before the end of the session expected in May. This is largely because more than 1,200 amendments have been tabled in the House of Lords, principally from opponents to the legislation. This is their way of sabotaging it. With only 3 of 14 days debate in the Lords remaining, around half of the amendments are yet to be discussed. Dame Riza Ruskin, who supports assisting dying, has accused opponents of using a skew of amendments in the Lords to sabotage rather than scrutinise the bill. Yeah, This is exactly what I believe. In an interview, Dame Esther said she was begging the peers to pass the bill, which has already been approved by the Commons, rather than allow a very small minority to block it. She said some would block the bill for religious reasons because they belong to a faith that prohibits assisting dying, and they want to impose that on those of us that don't share the faith. Yeah, this is exactly what I was about. This is exactly what I said. This is these religious fuckers. You know, sorry, look, you, like, for me, like, you cannot, I mean this sincerely, like, if somebody is a person of faith, yeah, who's listening to this, you cannot let your religious beliefs dictate policies in government. You must not use your religious beliefs to dictate policies in government. And that's exactly what they're doing here. Yeah? If you want to promote your religion, do it outside of politics. But do not interfere in politics to benefit your religious or your ideological beliefs there. Religious beliefs, sorry. Ideology obviously different, but religion in terms. You should not be using it for political for the benefit of. You get my point. I'm trying to put my words together here. Some believe they are so committed to palliative care, and some because I think it's wrong. I think disabled activists would apply to disabled people, which it wouldn't. All these people, did any of these people kick and scream about palliative care before the assisting dying bill, before this discussion come up? Did any of them actually have general discussions about palliative care? Did any of them during, some of these people who've been in the laws for God knows how long, did any of them say anything about more funding for it? Did they stand up in the House of Lords and say palliative care should not be, funding should not be cutted during the austerity? Did they say anything about that then? No. None of them give a shit about it. They're only saying something about it because it relates to the assisting dying bill. It would only apply to disabled people in the last 6 months of their life. So what they're choosing is preventing disabled people from choosing. It's all about choosing a swift, pain-free death instead of suffering or dignity that they're going through. Exactly. This is about people who are dying. She rejected claims that the bill was badly written, saying it had been beautifully scrutinised. All the right things are in this bill. It is sabotage, she said. But Labour MP Jess Ascot, who opposed the bill, said the sponsor of the bill has rejected 99% of the suggested improvements and amendments in the House of Lords, and so it still contains all the same faults and issues. She added, any MP that votes to push this bill through will do so knowing that it's unsafe and it will harm vulnerable people. I firmly disagree with this. A source working with Labour opponents to the bill said for Labour MPs to continue to agitate for this unsafe, badly written and divisive bill rather than focus on reasons voting for us at the election is madness. Labour needs to work on delivering in our manifesto and running the country, not rerunning contentious arguments about assisting dying. The bill comes as SNPs in Scotland prepared to vote on their own assisting dying bill on Tuesday that would allow mentally competent adults with terminal illness to seek medical help to end their lives. Scotland are going to get their bill through before England. Again, I don't know what Scotland's assisting dying bill is. I don't know how different it is. I know I was sent a link a while ago and I haven't had a chance to look at it. More than 100 Labour MPs who backed the change have written to the Prime Minister. Yeah, Prime Minister's not going to intervene. There is one argument I will say though, that this is a fair argument here. You don't want all the time being taken up on assisting dying. Yes, it does deserve time, but you don't. But there are other things they need to be taking time up on as well. There. We fully respect the government's neutrality on people assisting dying. Yeah, the government does need to be neutral to a certain extent. We believe this is a matter of great importance that threatens to undermine trust in our ability as politicians to deliver on their priorities. Letters from supporters of our party have been organised by Kate Malthouse from the Conservatives, Liberal Democrats, Richard Tice, Ellie Childs from the League Party. In total, around 150 Labour MPs have written to the Prime Minister. Calls for pressure on Keir Starmer to intervene. He's not going to intervene. He voted in favour of the change in the Commons, but insisted the government will remain neutral. And previously asked about the issue, turning for the next session, Prime Minister spokesperson says the government is neutral on the matter and insisting dying in the passage of the bill. It's for Parliament to decide on any changes to the law. It's a matter for conscious issue for MPs. The government's neutrality will be maintained. It's not a matter for the government. Yeah. So I generally think it's going to get killed, guys. I think the Lords are. I think they're going to get it killed, and which is really really sad because there was such a huge amount of happiness and whatnot for people after it passed Parliament, and the Lords are literally sabotaging it because of a few. Spain stopped the US from using the bases in their territory, has operational HUDs for the strikes, not from refueling their planes. It's in the NATO agreement, Reganelite. What are you talking about? Sorry. Adhering to US diplomacy to be involved in illegal war, multiple war crimes. But for now, none of us can stop the US from stopping its bases in Europe and refueling. We can, however, like Portugal did, stop them from using them as potential operations for strikes. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the UK, obviously, I can't speak for other nations, but obviously we know from UK's position is that we've agreed to allow the UK to use our bases for strikes. But obviously there's a decision for them to make, and they've obviously said no for them. And Trump's already said it doesn't really, that some of those bases, that they aren't needed anyway for them. Tell the Lord Bishops too, but out. You know, there are times where the House of Lords have been a saving grace, and there are times like this where they aren't thinking at all about them. They're only thinking about their selfishness there. Religion in politics, a great idea. Just look at those parasites, Israel, US, and Iran, all ruled by religious zealots, says Jal. Great point. Yeah, great point. Right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. Got a little short video here. I actually haven't seen this one. I wanted to watch it with you guys, so... And it's actually, I'm actually very familiar with what they do. So he goes on a rant about what Chicago does here every time it comes around to St. Patrick's Day. Because every St. Patrick's Day in Chicago, they paint the river green to celebrate it. But Garen has some words about it, and I have no idea what he's going to say, guys. So let's just hear what he has to say on this.
The Americans are fucking at it again, dyeing the river green. I still can't believe that America is actually in real life. Like, America is a place that you can actually go. Some people fucking live there. I'm confident that can't be true. This is just attention seeking now. Do you know what we do in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day? We wear a green t-shirt. That's it. And we drink a lot, but that doesn't really differentiate it from other days. And what about the fucking fish? How would they feeling about all this? I know it's fish safe dye, but the salmons must be awful fucking confused. What the fuck, lads? I shouldn't have that fucking mushroom. I'm freaking out, boys. I feel like I'm underwater. I get it. You're fucking Irish. You don't need to be so aggressive with it. Subtle Irishness is so much sexier. Look at Paul Mescal. He's so undercover as an Irishman, he's not even ugly. If you really want to honour St. Patrick, throw a load of fucking snakes in the water. See how you enjoyed that authenticity. Anyway, follow me. I'm delicious.
I gotta be honest. Like, I think it's very, very cool for Chicago to do that. Is it a waste of money? Yes, but it is a very cool thing that they do. So, you know, I'm just gonna put that out there. I think it's cool. I know some people disagree, and that's fine. You can disagree. I don't think people should make a big hoo-ha about it, personally. There. Right, let me just pause that before going to the next story. Right, guys, so just quickly before I go into the next story, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you can for me too. And if you want to help me get to today's Super Chat goal, you can do as well. Consider joining the YouTube membership for as little as 99p. If you get to be a YouTube member, you get some custom emojis in the chat. You also get early access to additional content. And also, you get access to members' community posts where you get pictures of the cats, because that's the best thing about being a member as well. So do consider becoming a YouTube member. It really does help and support the work here. So thank you guys for listening. Let's continue here. So there's an interesting one. It's a Brexit one, of course, because Brexit is a story that never goes away, guys. So this is from The Independent. Britain will not rejoin the EU or set up a customs union, Starmer's top negotiator warns. So in an exclusive with them, it says European Affairs Minister Nick Thomas-Symonds will tell ideologues on both sides of the Brexit debate that alignment is not a dirty word as he seeks to enable a relationship reset with ruthless pragmatism. So, look, so for those who haven't heard me say this, because I do need to repeat this because it's really, really important to understand. There is no point for us to rejoin the European Union or European Union. There is a point, obviously, to rejoin the single market and customs union, but to rejoin the EU itself is much more of a different kettle of fish. The problem that we have, and I've said this already, is even if Labour just turns around today and they apply for the UK to join the European Union, you will have the right-wing media, like the Mail and the Express, going up in arms. You will have the likes of Reform and the Conservatives going up in arms about this as well, saying, no, it's undemocratic, all that bollocks as well. And you're going to get a right-wing government at some point in the future. And it's going to take years for negotiations to get back into the EU. And what will happen is that a right-wing government will come in and they will just throw it all out. It'll be all a complete bloody waste of time for the European Union and a complete and total bloody waste of time for the Labour government to do so. We need a massive, overwhelming majority of the public to support Brexit, as well as an overwhelming majority of politicians to back it as well. Because unless we have both of them, there is no point in pursuing this, because you need to have politicians on all sides backing rejoining the European Union. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. There's no point starting something if you're not going to be able to finish it, guys. It's just going to end up being a complete waste of time. Stephen Moore, thank you so much for the 20 New Zealand dollars. Good morning, or Tuesday morning where you are. I hope you had a wonderful Monday. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat, getting us off the mark tonight. So we've got 4 more to go. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. Hope you are doing well. Very, very kind of you. Right, so let's have a dig and see what this is saying. So, the minister tasked with resetting the UK's relationship with the European Union has ruled out a customs union with the blog and said he does not believe that Britain will ever return to the EU. Ahead of a speech in Brussels on Monday, European Affairs Minister Nick Thomas-Symonds told The Independent that there is no appetite to return to debates of the past over EU membership. That's bollocks. People do want an appetite for it. Problem is again, I've already made the issues of why we won't be joining anytime soon. I do think it can happen again in my lifetime, but it's not going to be for a long time, guys. While he insists that the government wants to develop closer ties with the EU, particularly as the world has become a more dangerous place, Mr. Thomas-Symonds ruled out any sort of deal that would lead to the UK and the EU entering a customs union. He said that even a bespoke version like the arrangements the blog has with countries like Turkey and Norway is off the cards. In December, 13 Labour MPs rebelled and backed the Lib Dems bill to rejoin the customs union, which was passed in the Commons. Thomas-Symonds likened the idea of promising a customs union to the famous Vote Leave bus, which carried a message about extra funding for the NHS. He said, "We won't have a customs union. We will never go back to the days of making undeliverable promises on the side of a red bus." His comments come ahead of a major speech on Brexit by Chancellor Rachel Reeves tomorrow, where she will be making a positive case for closer alignment between Britain and the EU. It's just I know it sucks. And obviously Scotland's way out is independence, and that's their path to rejoining the European Union. And that could be a path for Wales if they, depending on how the elections go for them, that could basically be their path to rejoining the European Union. And obviously Northern Ireland's place in the future at some point, if the people of Ireland and Northern Ireland want it, is Irish reunification. And as for England, well, don't know right now. We have to be clear that alignment is not a dirty word. Stephen Banker, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. For the Ollie Appreciation Society, thank you. Ollie very much appreciates it. He's actually smiling, if you can see there. He's actually smiling. And the Cabinet Office confirms that he hopes to have a new deal in place on food, drink and youth movement in time for the 10th anniversary of the EU referendum on June 20th. But asked if the UK could go back into the EU one day, Mr. Thomas-Symonds told The Independent, "I don't see that. I don't see us returning to the debates of the past." Again, like they're saying it's never going to happen. It is going to happen. I do think, the debates are going to happen. There are groups out there, there are youngsters out there who are being told of the benefits of people, who are learning and understanding the benefits of what their parents and grandparents had. People are not going to forget, what it was like before we left the EU. What we've always been about this is looking forward. I get a sense, because I'm talking to people up and down the country on a weekly basis, that there's supposed to be a closer relationship that we've already built and are building, and I think there is no appetite to reopen that debate. I agree that people don't want to have that discussion, but I do think that discussion is going to happen at some point down the road. Whether they like it or not, we are going to have that discussion down the road. Is now the right time for it? No. But we do need to have that discussion at some point. Thank you again, Stephen Banker, for another £2 super chat there. For DPR, yes, for the Penguins as well. My apologies, guys. It's been a long day for me. Yeah, I not right now, but down the future. I don't like this rhetoric from politicians where they're saying that'll never happen and whatnot. I mean, it's just a flat out lie. It's just a flat out lie. For his Labour colleagues and others who want much closer ties with the blog, his comments will come as a disappointment. I will say this though, I do appreciate the fact that Labour have done one thing. Labour have done so much better than the Conservatives have, is rebuild the relationship with Europe. That has been so important. However, I just feel like it's just going to get completely tarnished if we get a reform government. Like literally, the entire relationship that Labour have been building up with the EU is just going to literally go kapoof. It's just going to go in the bin if reform come in, because they're just going to trash anything European related. Among the senior figures who have spoken in favour of a customs union with the EU is Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, who said in December that countries in such unions could see a boost to their economy. Mr. Lammy said it was self-evident that Brexit had been economically damaging, and highlight that Turkey has seen growth as a result of its union with the blog. Weeks later, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeton, also called for deeper trade ties between Europe and the EU. In comments that appeared to suggest that he would be opening to Britain rejoin the customs union. We didn't exactly say that, but I do get where you're coming from there. Thank you, Steve Banker, for another £2 super chats. That's very kind of you. Oh, let me just press it in there. For the Quackers and for the Gold Confetti. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for reaching today's. Thank you, everyone, for reaching today's super chat. Gold, appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thank you for your support, Stephen Banker. I really appreciate that. Yes, I do need a confetti animation. Yes, I know. It's on my list of things to do. God. I don't know what's up with my voice today. Insisting that it's already a great deal has been achieved in the UK EU reset. I agree. A great, yeah. Which has been guided by the Britain's national interest, which is worth $9 billion to the economy. He warned this would be put at risk by Nigel Farage reform or Kenny Banks' Conservative Party if they won power and went ahead with their plans to tear up the agreement. This, I 100% agree with this. The problem is that people do not want to vote Labour at the next election, as of right now. The EU is negotiating for heavy penalty clauses if a future UK government should try to back out of a reset deals being negotiated in a bid to tie them in. But Mr. Thomas Simmons acknowledged that there are challenges. One of the major areas he was referring to is ensuring that the UK is included in the EU's Made in Europe arrangements, which could hit car makers such as Nissan in the northeast of England in particular. But he said that the UK government is working every day, every week to ensure that it does not lock British producers out. He said the UK and the EU are facing very similar challenges going forward. We, on both sides of the channel, looking to generate growth that is central to this government's mission, eradicating trade barriers between us. It's just going to create, erecting trade barriers between us, it's going to create mutual damage. And that's not in either side's interest, he said. Yeah, but we need them more than they need us. I think that's really, really important reference to add there. There's some interesting comments, but nothing really we don't already know from Labour's position on this. I think that's pretty clear. I think that's pretty clear with regards to Brexit. The economic protocols are also needed for a customs union, not the customs union, not the customs union. This would be a customs union where Party A and the EU and Party B the UK, not the UK in the customs union. Oh yes, I think we talked about that in the past, didn't we? They talked about having some kind of separate entity sort of thing. There. Yeah, something along those lines there. What's wrong, Mel? You alright? You can keep talking. YouTube's censoring me. No, YouTube is not censoring you. We can see your comments. You're fine. You're fine, my dear. Don't you worry. Thank you again for those super chats, guys. I really appreciate it. Helping me get to the goal. Just a reminder again, when I finish the show, guys, I'll be on Discord for a little bit. So if you guys want to join me on Discord for a chat, you can do as well. This is from The Guardian. So Labour MPs have no reason to oppose a new welfare reform, says Minister. Packman unveils £1 billion youth unemployment scheme and appeals to backbenchers who rebelled last year. Now, look, the youth unemployment scheme, driving to get young people back into work, I'm all for that kind of stuff. What I'm not all for is forcing people against their will to get back into work. And the problem that Labour has is we have a lot of youngsters who aren't in work, who need to get into work, or there's all sorts of different reasons why they're not working, okay? At the same time, we have a shortage. We do have an unemployment issue. We have a bigger problem in youth unemployment, and we're not getting as many people abroad as we used to, which we need. And many people abroad are getting put off from coming to the UK for certain particular sectors that we need those people for, because we don't have enough of them here as it is. So while I'm all for building our own people, like building our own doctors, nurses, builders, and all that kind of stuff, it all costs money, and the problem is that you can't make private businesses build them up. You do have to put your hand in your pocket. And while I welcome this 1 billion youth unemployment, obviously how that money gets distributed is going to be another question. It's not going to fix all the issues. Let me have a read of this. So, Labour MPs have no reason to oppose a fresh government attempt to overhaul the welfare system. The moment when you say that, it sounds like, there's going to be something wrong with this bill. The Work and Pension Secretary has said as he unveils a 1 billion youth unemployment scheme. The announcement by Packman, who said the public wanted the system to promote work and value for money, is regarded as a prelude to renewed efforts to change the welfare system after plans by his predecessor, Liz Kendall, were blocked by a Labour backbench rebellion last year. So companies will get a £3,000 grant for each hire of a person aged 18 to 84 who is on benefits and has been looking for a job for at least 6 months, under a new policy designed to tackle the rising rate of youth unemployment. The funding, which is aimed to create 200,000 jobs, is part of what was described by Mr. McFadden as a new deal for young people. Now, we kind of discussed this. We discussed this quite thoroughly this morning. But I will say that there was one survey we looked at where it was actually doing well, according to one study, that said it was not this particular one, but a similar grant one, where it was actually doing well for people. And I would say if there's data and studies that show that this works, that it does help get young people into work, then we should support the bill. It was announced alongside a new apprenticeship incentive, under which small and medium-sized businesses will be paid $2,000 for every new employee aged between 16 and 24 they take on. Payments to firms that will be staggered under the scheme, which will start in June. I did say, for those who didn't see the Good Morning Show, that private businesses will take advantage of this. They will hire them for 6 to 12 months, however long they're meant to hire them for, under the scheme, and then they will let them go because it's free labour for them. So you will see a lot of businesses will take this up because it's free money for them, because the companies don't need to pay for their wages. The government will be paying for them. The idea is obviously to keep them in work after the government stops paying them. But that's there are cases where it does work, but there are sometimes cases where it doesn't work. And there could be a scenario where more doesn't work, not because I don't think that they don't want to take them on, but because they're not having as businesses don't have as much workforce as they used to in certain sectors, because they're replacing it with AI. At the same time, the government is getting rid of a number of management apprenticeships, of which 8 in 10 are taken up by existing employees over 25. However, McFadden also dropped strong signals that the government was laying the groundwork for fresh attempts to make welfare changes after the government was last year forced to water down plans announced by Kendall. A U-turn on cuts to disability benefits was undertaken to avert a rebellion by more than 120 Labour backbenchers last summer, of which 47 later rebelled and against proposed cuts to the welfare. Yeah, this was one of the most diabolical decisions by the Labour government to even think about cutting disability benefits. It was absolutely insane. It wasn't even in their manifesto. I want to give people a chance. I want a level of support that they have not seen in the past, and I believe that is what welfare reforms is all about. And I see no reason Labour MPs should not be supporting the welfare reform that puts work and opportunities at the heart, says McFadden, when asked if he's ready to take on backbenchers once again over broader welfare changes. Earlier, he used a speech at a further education college in East London to make a case for radical change to the welfare system. The welfare state is only as strong as the political and public support for it. He said it survived. It has survived because there is an acceptance in society that we should be support the unemployed, the sick, disabled, and the elderly. The public also wants the system to promote work and value for money, and they are right to do so. Yes, but there's a lot of people. But it's already difficult enough for people to get entitlements. We've had this discussion before. Number of young people not in education, employment, or training, a group sometimes referred to as NEETs, was much too high at almost 1 million. Within that group, the proportion who are sick or disabled has doubled, and that is now about 45% of the total. Investigations concerns over the youth jobs market. Peter Kyle, the secretary, said the government would hand the Low Pay Commission flexibility to recommend changes to the pace and timing of the minimum wage for younger workers. Labour made a manifesto to scrap the discriminating lower rate for 18 to 20-year-olds. However, some business leaders have blamed above inflation rises planning for the spring for discouragement from hiring younger adults. Get rid of it. It's just pure discrimination. It is discrimination. It's just these companies don't want to pay more, basically. They just don't want to pay more. That's simply it. In publishing the annual remit of the LPC, Carl says the government remain committed to removing discriminatory age bands, but said the body which advises on legal pay for would be handy full flexibility to determine the pace and ultimate things of that alignment, with priority being given to the employment prospects for younger workers. The Tories said opponents for work were disappearing right under the Labour government, blaming the Employment Rights Act and the rise in national insurance contributions for employers. Hannah Waitley, the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, said the best way to tackle youth unemployment is to back businesses to create jobs, not tax them out of existence to fund their benefits and subsidies. McFadden was challenged at an event, who said there was real concern among some employers at what she described as the defunding of some apprenticeships and restriction of ages. We had to make a choice here, McFadden responded, adding that many people who would be surprised to learn that the majority of funding for apprenticeships in recent years was going to people over 25 who were already in work. Since a disabled charity that was among those who opposed the benefit changes to the proposal last year, Kendall saying extremely concerning that the government seems to be laying the groundwork for reforms to disabled benefits, fueling anxiety amongst disabled people and already struggling, the cost of living rises. Now, if that's in the bills, and I don't know that, but if they are, then this bill needs to be shot down again. It needs to be shot down again because it's already difficult enough for people. It is already difficult enough for people. It just is. Also, companies will save by not having to pay through things like holiday pay and employment rights, and the workers wouldn't get enough time in a job to qualify enough for holiday pay. Yeah. You work for 6 months. You work for 6 months straight, and then you're let go. And it's just like, you've made some money, but it's like it's not a secure job. And it's not the company will just use you and then get rid of you because why it's free labor for them. It's free labor. I'm not saying it doesn't work because there are cases where it does prove to be successful. There are studies that say it does work, but there are examples of it. And like I said on the Good Morning Show, when I was, I'm somebody who used to work in Superdrug for 15 plus years. They abused the hell out of it. And companies will abuse the hell out of it because it's free labor. Why would you not abuse it? And people don't like me saying that, but that's just the reality of it. Right, the next story I've got for you guys is one from the Times. This is an interesting one that I've wanted to look into. So, YouGov backs down in a data row with Nigel Farage. A reform Russian leader has accused the pollsters of being deceptive and underplaying the popularity of his party in his voting intention surveys. Now, look, I think this is a deliberate attempt to try and claim that reform are more popular than what the polls are saying. And I think it's just a case of the fact that I think it's a case of because of the surge of the Greens, because of what they've been saying, what they've been doing, they're trying to play down any kind of talk that Reform are on a bit of a decline. And they don't like these credible pollsters giving any kind of information. And YouGov is obviously one of the most reliable ones. And that being said, do YouGov get everything right? No. But they do use reliable data anyway. Now, they are planning to give a bit more detail in the data that they do. Do I think it's going to make a difference? My concern... I do apologise, guys. Like I said, I was up late last night. I did tell you guys this morning. I do think, though, it's Nigel Farage and Reform are going to look for any kind of corners, any kind of way to undermine any pollsters that don't poll favourably to them in some way, shape or form. I think that's what this is. I hope this doesn't affect YouGov's work in any way, shape or form. Do I think that this will make a difference to polling? No, not really. But I do think, yeah, like anything that undermines Reform, they will try to undermine it or smear it or try and play it down in some way, shape or form. But I do think it's an interesting one to look at. Good evening, blah, blah. Hope you are doing well there. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. So, Leading Pollster has agreed to publish more data behind its results about Nigel Farage, accusing it of underplaying the popularity of Reform UK. Reform Russia, sorry. And the thing is like, if they're a private company, and private companies are allowed to do what they want. So, you know, like, there's lots of companies that can put out whatever polls and surveys they want. It's up to you whether you want to take the polling on board or not. YouGov, whose voting intention surveyed are published in the Times, have consistently placed the party lower than rival pollsters. This is because it questions people on how they are likely to vote in their own constituency rather than the party they favour in general. A method that it insists produces more accurate results by taking into account tactical voting, which makes logical sense here because it's not always about what party you're backing, it's about the people in your constituency in your area. The Reform leader accuses YouGov of being deceptive and claimed it was breaking transparency rules laid out by the opinion polling watchdog. These rules are primarily concerned publish headline figures by pollsters. This is nonsense. YouGov have been doing this for God knows how long. This is just an attempt to smear them because they're not polling as well as others are. According to Farage, Anthony Wells, YouGov's global head of politics, said while data from the voting intention question without a consistency prompts is not part of our published headline figures, we are happy to include this in future public tables. I can assure you that our decision on methodology will be continued based on solely and exclusively on what we think will produce the most accurate picture of British public opinion. We're proud of our record of accuracy at the past elections, both here and around the world, and not at least in correctly predicting Reform UK's support at the last election. YouGov had Reform on an average of 24.8% in recent polls on voting intentions. Over the same period, Optimum gave the party 30.9%, while More in Common gave it 29.5%. Find It Out gave it 29.3%. Look, just because Reform have it a bit lower, what's like, this is again, like, why is it such a big deal, you know? Farage has also accused YouGov of breaking another rule laid out by the watchdog, which states that pollsters must publish tables showing the exact question asked and in order and in which they were asked. As well as asking voters a second question, YouGov uses a third component in modelling, which Farage has claimed it is unexplained and also contributes results that he described as bizarre. This is, again, trying to undermine. This is their attempts to, if there's any polling that indicates Reform aren't as popular, this is their attempts to smear and undermine them here. Reform says the false change in YouGov's publishing policy has shown that it is stage 1 polling had the party on a higher percentage than its stage 2 and stage 3 polling in line with other companies. YouGov spokesperson said our headline voting intention figures are based on how people say they will vote in their own constituencies, adjusted for likelihood to vote, and we don't using MRP, that is multi-level recession and post-stratification. We switched to asking specifically about constituencies prior to the 2024 general election, and our post-election review found this significantly increased our accuracy as it is the most effective at picking up tactical voting and how people can actually cast their vote. It's Reform just basically looking to take pot shots at YouGov because YouGov are not favouring them as high as other pollsters and because they do things differently. That's literally what it is. Anything that undermines reform and the work that they do, they will call it out and trying to smear it in some way, shape or form. The fall of the US and the evidence of the Brexit disaster will end reform if the Brits wake up on time. The by-elections, all these elections coming up in Wales and Scotland and England will say a lot. Will say a lot about how reform does. It will say a lot. That is for sure. Right, we've got one last news story to go, guys. I do have one funny video to see ourselves out at the end as well. But I will be heading to Discord after the show. If you guys want to join me for that, you can do. So, last story here is from the iPaper. The BBC licence fee is poor value for money, UK public says. BBC is under pressure over the £180 charge, with only a quarter of people believing it is worthwhile to pay. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say the vast majority of you in the chat probably agree, as do I, that the BBC licence fee is poor value for money. Because here's the thing. Not everyone uses the BBC. Not everyone watches TV. But if you have a TV, you've got to pay the licence fee. And that's the problem. People are forced to pay for something that they don't want to pay for because you have a TV. And it's not right. £180 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So viewers believe the BBC licence fee offers of poor value for money and should be replaced, a new poll has suggested. The one thing I've mentioned it a few times should be some kind of subscription-based service. It should be a case of if you want the BBC, you've got to subscribe to it. There appears to be large opposition to retaining the £180 a year TV charge in its current form, according to research by the Good Growth Foundation, a GGF think tank. The findings could alarm the BBC, which is about to enter into discussion with the government over the future of the licence fee. It's got to change the system. It has to change the system. There's just no debate about it. Viewer survey by GGF, which has been closely aligned with the Labour government, questions why they are still needing to pay for a mandatory licence fee when they are predominantly watching streaming rivals such as Netflix. And I never watch TV, guys. I never watch TV. Like, if I'm watching something, I'm either using YouTube or Twitch. Or I'm browsing on Twitter for content. That's it. Like, I don't use TV at all. Me. But BBC bosses want the ministers to extend the licence fee, so that includes people watching programmes on online services such as Disney, include watching programs as an online service such as YouTube, Disney Plus and Netflix. Don't like that. It's warned that the charge is in irreversible decline and has called for a fairer funding mechanism which could see less people pay less. It should be a subscription service. Majority say licence fee is poor value. The poll found that 58% of respondents said the licence fee represents a poor value for money, compared with 25% who believe it offers good value. So this is, for reference, this is a poll of 2,000 adults between 13th and 16th of February this year, commissioned by the Good Growth Foundation. So it asks the public opinion poll on the licence fee. The question is, which statement comes closest to your views about the BBC licence fee? That the licence fee is very good value for money, somewhat good value for money, somewhat poor value for money, very poor value for money. Don't know. I do not pay the licence fee. And net worth of good value for money and net worth of poor value for money overall. So the vast majority there says 39% think it's very poor value for money. 8% think it's very good value for money. Must be a lot of seniors. Interestingly enough, 17% say somewhat good value, 19% somewhat poor value there. But that very big poor value, that's quite a big bar. 6% say they don't know, and 11% don't pay for the licence fee. And then overall there you can see the percentage there. Only 26% think it's good value and 58% think it's poor there. Only 9% of the public believe the licence fee should remain unchanged. Others said they would prefer a BBC funded by advertising with little or no licensing fee. 26% or a Netflix-style subscription model. 12%. GTF poll, 2,000 adults last month, weighed by age, religion and political views, conducted separate for groups. Let me ask you guys straight off the bat. Would you prefer, if you had to choose, would you have a subscription model for the BBC? Or would you prefer it to be funded by ads? Sorry, my throat is really killing me, guys, so I do apologise. We're near the end here anyway. It says one focus group respondent says the number of people paying the TV license has gone down a lot. I think that's a reflection of the distrust in the BBC, and I think it's important that they're on board with the public. Number of license fees in circulation has fallen by 1.5 million since 2021. The BBC admitting that the shift to online viewing driving cancellations is set to continue. Now, a respondent says, I need to pay for a license to get what? I'm already paying for my Sky. Why do I have to pay? Why have we got to pay for a license? You pay for Sky, you get Sky. You pay for Netflix, you get Netflix. Why do you need to pay for separate license on top of them? Well, one said, the other thing I love about the BBC is that there's no commercials. I can't stand commercials. I just pay the fee to avoid the ads. Well, maybe there should be an option. Maybe the BBC should do ads, but maybe they can offer an ad-free service, like ad-free channels. But you have to pay a subscription, for the BBC to have those ad-free channels separately. So that if you want a free BBC, then it has ads. But if you want the BBC, like maybe they could have like it's a bit difficult to do. Yeah, if you're doing the BBC, if you're doing like the BBC Live at 6 or something, Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm just trying to think. Like, how can you get around this? Like, I think the BBC could have ads, and then there could be an option, and then they could have like an option where if you want to have ad free, you pay a subscription. Like Disney Plus has, something like that. That could probably work more than anything. Children's programming users were the most positive our audience group survey, was just 41%, saying the license fee offers good value. New users came in second with 25% believing it is worthwhile. The GGF advisory board includes a Labour peer. Said its findings, and the BBC and the Department of Culture will publish a white paper setting out the government's proposals for the future later this year. It noted that 4 headline policy proposals, including a new approach to the EU UK cooperation, had been adopted by the government. Its flagship summit features Chancellor Rachel Reeves as headline speaker. Louisiana Dillmore, Director of Strategy at the GFS, said for the BBC to remain as one of Britain's great national assets, it needs to be consideration of how to win back public support. The BBC wants a stable long-term funding settlement. It must rebuild public consent, but demonstrating its value and adapting how to audiences actually consume media today. A BBC spokesperson said the broadcaster is used by 94% of UK adults on average per month. A recent questionnaire of 870,000 account holders found 83% said it's important for our mission to inform, educate and entertain continues. BBC acknowledged the current license fee model requires radical reforms to secure a funding model that is universal, fair, sustainable and future-proof. Bar figures show Netflix first took over BBC One to become the most watched UK TV service at the end of 2024. Although the BBC and the streamer have swapped the lead since, Netflix has said it is eager to integrate the BBC's channels into its own platforms as audiences increasingly shift to streaming. The BBC pointed to research showing an equivalent household bundle to its offers in premium advertising, free video, audio and news media subscriptions would now cost over £600 a year versus the license fee, which rises to £180 from the 1st of April. What a terrible April Fool's joke. I only watched the news on TV and some documentaries in RTP2 channel, RBBC, and they have great documents on art, music, history, literature, etc. But I watch it on my PC low, and I have a TV, but not for me. BBC only fans. Yeah, it's a tough one, Look, I don't like. I think the BBC needs to make this decision. because the model is not working, and more people. Yes, is it still? It's still very popular, but it's still very popular. Like it's saying 94% of UK adults, but a lot of them don't like the fact that they have to pay the license fee. You know, they want a way around it, and I don't blame them. It is what I'm sure when they have they'll have another discussion on it, and we'll definitely be talking about it then, guys. So, guys, we've got one more video to see ourselves out here on the Viewpoint live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Got a funny one here from Foil Arms and Hogs. I did watch this earlier, and I thought it was hilarious, but maybe some of you might not find it as funny, but we'll see anyway. Again, I remind you guys that I'll be heading on to Discord once the live stream ends for a little bit. So if you guys want to join me over there, you are welcome to do so as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one called "When the Owner Does the Commercial." So yeah, instead of having a grunt doing the commercial, you got the owner doing it on your behalf. I mean, what could possibly go wrong when the owner is doing the commercial?
Hello, I'm Matt Matherson from the Mat and Carpet Warehouse. I own the company and I also do the commercials. Get down to the Mat Warehouse for our January sale. All mats reduced, including welcome mats, mats that nearly say welcome, mats that probably say welcome, mats I found in a skip, mats that aggravate pre-existing asthma, mats from an old COVID-19 testing centre, mats that remind you of the Soviet Union. It's 2 for 1 on all double price mats. You do the mats. Members of the Revenue Commission are not welcome on premises. Mats the way I like it. If you buy over 60 mats in a 14-day period, you will be entitled to a free coffee made by our mystery in-house barista. Why not consider the Mat and Rug Warehouse as a perfect destination for your children's birthday party? Just ask our staff.
This is so appropriate for children. In no way extremely dangerous.
Remember, no toilets on site, no parking, €90 release fee. We've also teamed up with our friends at the Rug Palace to give you this incredible deal. Check out Dale's sale at the Rug Palace.
I am Dale.
He's Dale.
Please use the rear entrance as the front sensors are currently broken.
Get down to the Mat Warehouse or find us on the World Wide Web, www.google.com, and type in mats. Go to page 14 and scroll to the bottom. We should be there. Please note, Matcoin, the recently launched cryptocurrency, is not currently accepted in store. And Mat's a promise.
Doomda!
Did you get that, guys? If you got to go to page 14 on Google, right? You got to go to page 14. Go to Google, type in mats. You got to go to page 14, and it's right at the bottom, guys. Okay? Can you remember that? It's a bit of a laugh, I will say. I'm not a rug person myself, if I'm honest, but some people are a bit fan of rugs, to be fair. But yeah, guys, if you wanna get a rug from them, you got to go to all the way to page 14 on Google. So there you go, guys. There you go. Right, guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came along. Thank you guys for all your comments. I just want to remind you again, I don't know if the live stream's going to go all right tomorrow. Just for those who I've only just joined us, there's going to be some internet They're going to be working on the internet in this area tomorrow. So I have no idea how the internet's going to go. Whether or not I'm going to be able to live stream, whether or not I'm going to be able to put up content or what. So at the moment it's scheduled as normal, and we'll just see how it goes. That's it. So whether I'll be live or not, I don't know. But I'm just planning it as normal. We only got one live stream tomorrow anyway, so just for reference there. But yeah, thank you guys again for all coming along. Before you head out, just again a reminder, I'm going to try and record tomorrow content for Rumble and Patreon tomorrow for the rest of the week. And what else? We've got the roundtable on Thursday as well, which I'm going to try and get one more person on board. I've got an idea who I'm going to try and reach out for some people anyway. And on your way out, if you can for me, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And hopefully I'll see some of you guys on the Discord in just a moment. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.